maybe I can move to our next panel. So we talked about inclusion in terms of Asia. We talked about inclusion in terms of Africa and unbanked. And inclusion is one of the topics which is near and dear to our hearts. And actually, Hackquarters is a good female populated company. I mean, most of you know Hackquarters. We have a lot of great female employees, and we are looking forward to do justice in everywhere. So to make a change, instead of having men's talking about women inclusion, we have two great female speakers in this panel. So I'm not going to talk a lot, but I would be happy if they can start. So I'm going to leave my stage. Hi, Nithya. Hi, Canan. Welcome here. So I am going to leave you, so you will have your time, but please do introduce yourselves, and I'm happy to listen to this great panel. See you guys.
Okay, thank you, Kaan. Thank you everyone for being with us today. And I'm very excited to be with Nithya in this chat. Nithya Sharma is from Women's World Banking. She is a manager of strategy at Women's World Banking. And I am Canan. I'm psychological counselor and founder of Manibux, which is the first fully digital teenage banking solution designed specially for children and teenagers aged between 8 to 18. We are part of financial education also. We call us Fintech company. We believe the best place to give education money is family. Welcome, Nithya, sorry. I think your job is very important and adds value to life. So thank you for agreeing to this chat. Maybe we can talk about yourself before I start my questions.
Thank you, Canan, and thank you for everyone for being here this morning, this afternoon. I'm based in New York, so it's very early in the morning here. It's wonderful to be here. So my name is Nithya. I lead the strategy function here at Women's World Banking. Women's World Banking is a global nonprofit devoted to advancing financial inclusion for women in emerging markets. So I think this is actually a good conversation after Sumer's presentation, talking about some of the trends we're seeing, particularly in the emerging markets. You know, for us, we do see women as that biggest opportunity and that biggest need to serve in the market. And obviously we'll go into that, but that's essentially what Women's World Banking does. I've been with the organization for almost 5 years at this point. I come from a consulting and tech background. So really looking forward to engaging with you on this really important topic.
Okay. Great. We will talk about women's financial inclusion, but first, could you explain what's financial inclusion and what are its objectives?
Absolutely. So if you look at the current data, there's still about 1.7 billion adults in the world who do not have access to formal financial services, and 1 billion of them are women. So really, when you talk about financial inclusion, you really cannot talk about it without talking about women, because over 50% of the unbanked today are still women. And then when you think about the underbanked, so those who may have some cursory access but haven't really been able to fully use the services, or they're not fully served, again, it's disproportionately women. Again, the gender gap is has been consistent. It's been a 9% gender gap in financial inclusion for the last so many years, despite all the great work and great advances that that have been done. So Women's World Banking, again, we take it a step further. For us, it's not just about checking the box with access, which is a great starting step. You need to obviously get people access to an account, but we really focus on financial inclusion as taking that customer journey from access to usage to loyal customers who are retained by that financial institution. Again, we think about this from the customer experience, the user experience first and foremost, and that's what really excites us about fintechs, and where we have been sort of doing a lot more work over the last several years is really trying to look at how are fintechs tackling this problem, how are fintechs really thinking about expanding their base and bringing this customer segment into it. And we'll go into that a little bit, but we actually run a FinTech Innovation Challenge to really identify these institutions, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But again, I really want to highlight, I think in our, pre-call, we were having a little bit of a side chat about, how this is, this was flagged as a social impact event on Facebook and things like that. But really for us, yes, it's the right thing to do, but it is also the smart thing to do. Including women, there is a clear business case to do this. When women participate in the economy, McKinsey study shows that it could add $28 trillion to the global GDP, compared to business as usual, where women are just proportionally left out of the economy.
Yeah, sure.
If you have, many small businesses, particularly micro businesses, are owned by women, and there's, almost a $300 billion credit gap in women-owned businesses. So really, you're looking at leaving money on the table, and that's where women's role banking comes in and says, we're here to help you obviously do the social good, but also enhance your business objectives by serving this important segment.
Sure. As we know, several barriers faced by women that limit their access to and use more financial services could be identified. Unfortunately, of course, we have to face several barriers in life as well in financial services. For example, the biggest challenge I have experienced as a psychological counselor was to be accepted into the fintech sector. However, in time, this difference became my chance. Looking with a different perspective and knowing family and teens became an advantage for me, although I don't want to differentiate between the challenge that the male and female entrepreneurs face. As a female entrepreneur, I received lots of comments such as who is looking after your children? How can you keep up with housekeeping and cooking? But they forget something. I think never underestimate the power of women. I say that. Could you tell us what are the challenges and barriers for women for financial inclusion? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So I think, for us, we, all the challenges you said, add in the emerging markets, low income segment, and all those challenges get exacerbated, right? But again, to your point, with challenges, you see a lot of innovation and resilience. And, a lot of the women that I've had the privilege and honor of meeting have really kind of inspired me to continue doing this work. But, to answer your question, we really break down the challenges into 3 levels, right? We talk about the challenges at the ecosystem level. So let's start there, right?
Yeah.
You have things like, lack of ID. In a lot of the emerging markets that women's role banking works in, girls don't even have birth certificates.
Mm-hmm.
So, starting from there, if a girl doesn't have a birth certificate to identify her, she quote unquote doesn't exist, right? She's not in the system. She's not then able to access other services for her. When we specifically talk about banking, there's lack of, like a national financial inclusion strategy specifically focused on advancing women's financial inclusion. And especially now, I think Sumer's slide was really great because it's really shown how far the regulatory environment has come. But there's still a lot of need and growth, especially when you have new players like fintechs, like all the things that we've been talking about. There's a need to kind of build that ecosystem so that women are able to use these financial services. Mm-hmm. And again, you have the typical challenges that we all face in terms of connectivity, infrastructure, which are even more debilitating for a woman. So I tell this story quite often of there was a woman that I was speaking to in the Philippines. And she was on one of the Philippines is a country of 7,000 islands, and she was on one of those islands trying to send money home, and then suddenly the internet cuts out, or suddenly her connectivity goes. Yeah. She's sending her entire week savings, or even her month's savings to family, or for some purpose, and suddenly if your internet connection goes, that makes you even less trustful and even less likely to use such services going forward. And so I think, those are some of the ecosystem challenges. At the institution level, so when I'm talking about institutions, financial institutions like banks, fintechs, mobile network operators, at that level, the real challenge is a limited understanding of women customers and their needs, and lack of data on that business case. So really, feeling like, again, as I said before, that, serving women isn't just a CSR smart thing or right thing to do, but it's also a smart business decision, and having that be data driven. So I think at the financial institution level, there's still some challenges to sort of ensure that these women's needs are understood and considered deeply when you're designing the products and solutions. And I think, again, this is where fintechs can really come in and change the market, really. And we'll talk about that. And then, you have at the at her level, so at the woman level, there are things like you were saying, lack of mobility. So in a lot of markets, if you're in a rural village in India, for example, you might not be able to spend a whole day on a bus, going to the nearest town, getting to a bank, putting your money in, because you have, again, responsibilities at home, or you have to look after your children, or you're running your own business and you can't afford to take a whole day from your business if you're in a rural area. So, those are, so those are some of the challenges. And of course, we have the lack of compelling use cases. And I think this is, again, where fintechs can change the market. But, think about it this way. I have a phone, I can do all, whatever I want. But if I'm not able to go to the nearest store or to, the market or to my children's school and pay their school fees digitally, or pay for my groceries, or, whatever I need, then the money just stays here, and I have to take it out in cash and use it in cash if the ecosystem doesn't have the right use cases for me to go and use those. And I think that's really, one of the key challenges that we see for women in the emerging markets in particular.
How it can be? How can financial inclusion be achieved, Nithya? How can it be?
Yeah, so I think, this is always an interesting question. So our 40 years of work, so Women's World Banking has been around for the last, 40 plus years, again, show that women have these unique barriers and challenges. And so if you design those products with women in mind, so understanding your woman customer and designing for them, our 40 years of work and research actually shows that you're actually being inclusive of everyone. Designing for women is actually opening the market for everyone, but the opposite is not true. If you take a gender neutral or, gender agnostic approach, that's when you miss these unique barriers and challenges and end up leaving women behind. So our approach at Women's World Banking is really to take that behavioral science, behavioral economics approach to understanding, what we call our women-centered design, to, again, develop that deep understanding of the woman, her lifestyle, her needs, her use cases, what does she need, and then work with our financial partners, be it fintechs, be it banks, to help them design around that. And I think, so one quick example that I have is, we worked with a mobile network operator in Pakistan. Right. So, in Pakistan, again, you think about the social context, women have less mobility to just go out and transact and do those things. And what we were finding is, our partner only had about 11% women customers. So then we said, okay, how can we overcome this? We then said, okay, so women do go to the local stores, right? The corner shop to buy, little groceries and, soap and laundry and all of that. So we said, and a lot of those shops, even if they're owned by men, are run by the women in the family. And so, creating that safe space to say, look, a woman can go to that shop and she can talk to the shop owner because that's also a woman. And maybe that shop owner can then be brought on as an agent to help this woman open an account with our partner, get onboarded. And we created, sort of an incentive program to do that. And we actually ended up increasing their client base from 11% to 18% women. That doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think about from where they started, that's the progress that we want to see. So again, it's really about understanding those barriers and saying, okay, so what can we do to design around that? And, we really, think that fintechs are that new game changer, are that way to move forward because they can leverage technology. I think in the previous conversation we were talking about how a lot of emerging markets have actually jumped from sort of the the traditional technology to sort of the new age, with the middle step being completely jumped over. And we really see that, right? As smartphone penetration increases, as internet connectivity hopefully continues to get better and stronger, we really think that that technology is going to be the way to move forward. So, for example, again, we're working with a fintech in Nigeria at the moment on a digital credit product, right? So women who, again, need financing for their businesses, but typically women have a lot of trouble getting financing because they don't have traditional collateral. They don't have a strong credit history, or traditional credit history, I should say. And again, how do we design around that? Technology from fintechs has actually allowed the company to get data and develop an alternative credit scoring model and build proxies to determine creditworthiness outside of traditional collateral requirements. To be able to provide access to financing for these, market trader, women. And this is the beauty of fintechs, right? This is where I really think, fintechs can step in. And for me, it's not about building a unique solution for women. It's not about having a pink card or, a pink credit card or something like that. That's not what this is about. This is really about, breaking down those barriers so that women feel included. And I'll just, kind of leave with a quote. We did some customer research a few years ago in Kenya, and one of the women that we spoke to is, just treat me like the boss I am. That's all they want. They want to be respected. They want to be treated as equals. They want to be, and so that quote has just always stuck with me. Treat me like the boss I am. And that's a better business decision for all of us.
That's all. Okay. Personally, I think that the equality of women and men in fintech sector also will have a positive outcome in the society. Fintech is one of the sectors where digitalization and change is the fastest. I believe that if women in this sector will take more active roles, it will be reflected as a positive change in other sector as well. So how does women's world banking affect this change? It's not easy. How do they ensure women are included? Can you give an example of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So so again, when we think about leadership and women leaders, I think we've seen that again. There's a struggle to get strong women leaders in fintech, not because they're not around, but because again there's just that barrier. So women's role banking, we actually tackle the issue of financial inclusion at a few different levels, right? So we do research. Again, we have a robust research agenda that really focuses on research. Solutions. So I talked a little bit about a few examples, offering credit, things like that. We also have a leadership and diversity program or focus area where we, build the capacity of strong women leaders and also help institutions take a look at their policies and procedures and make sure that, again, you're not excluding women employees from kind of moving up the ladder, making sure that you have the right frameworks in place to support, your women leaders at all levels, right? Because what we find is typically that, the entry level or sort of the entry level positions, women are actually quite equal. You see that men and women enter the workforce equally, and then you start to see a drop off, right? As you see, women climbing up the corporate ladder, that's when you start, so again, I think we all know the stats of, women CEOs and how that's, there's not many and things like that. So we really focus on, how do you help build those women leaders and strengthen them so that they're able to kind of maintain that progress. And we do that because we really feel like gender diversity, gender inclusivity in the workplace has direct correlation with gender inclusivity at the client levels. And when you're talking about reaching, women clients, that, we see that direct correlation. We also, again, do a lot of advocacy. So, we've been working with the government of Indonesia. We've been working with the government of Nigeria. We just actually published a global paper outlining sort of 10 points of action that governments and industries can take to close this gender gap. From digital financial services to leadership to identification. So I do encourage everybody to read that paper. And that was in global partnership with BTCA, the World Bank, UNCDF, UNSGSA. So we do that. And then we also have a private equity investment fund. So we actually run an investment fund to really say that, look, our strategy is gender lens investment strategy. So, we are looking for market returns in investing in women. So again, it's all about that business case. And I guess, I'll also just leave with, we're also thinking about how do you build that fintech and digital ecosystem, right? So as I sort of alluded to in the beginning, we do run a fintech innovation challenge. This will be the third year that we're running that challenge. Last year we had, over 120 applications from 40 different countries. And this, we've actually been able to partner with the Monetary Authority of Singapore and the Singapore Fintech Festival, which I'm sure many of you know about. So we've actually had all of our past winners go on to present at the FinTech Festival. So Time Global, MyAgro, Pula Advisors, where Pula was actually one of the winners of the whole Global FinTech Accelerator in 2019. And so, that again is another big program that we're now kind of embedding into the organization, this FinTech Innovation Challenge. And for us, again, digital innovation is the future. We've seen with COVID especially that digital financial services has been the key ways in which our partner institutions have continued to be able to serve customers while maintaining social distance and other safety requirements. And our customers, again, have had to adapt quickly. So I talked a little bit about that, trust issue in the beginning. I think the last year has sort of superseded that trust issue by sort of forcing everybody to, adapt to digital technology, because you couldn't just go out and go to a bank, at least, a few months ago when it was, deep lockdowns, everybody was staying home. So again, we really see that, fintechs are going to be that way forward. And so that FinTech Innovation Challenge for us is really that key step to bring gender inclusive fintechs focused on financial inclusion for women. So quick plug, we're launching our applications in the next month, so mid-April. So we hope that many of you will be interested and check on our website to apply. So applications are launching for this year's cohort in a few weeks. So
I have. Okay, thank you, Nithya. In conclusion, money and technology, I think, shouldn't only be male dominated. As women, we should start to trust ourselves in every field. And I believe knowing that you are not alone and finding a support is a great advantage for women. So I'd really thank you for time you spent with us today, and it's been such a pleasure. I would like to meet and talk face to face after these days pass. And thank you everyone for listening. Stay safe and take care.
thank you all
very
so
much.
much.